All right, this is Diesel We the People News. One more time at it, y'all. All right, this is going to be part two. And the reason why I'm kind of putting this on here is for educational purposes, right? This is a criminal complaint. If you see my videos past, but this is how you do it. You put the codes in what you're trying to convey, okay? You box them in with their own stuff. And we talked about this before and all that. And this guy right here does a very good job of doing that. And you can, even if you don't believe in what he's saying, it kind of gives you an idea how to do it in your set cases or whatever you want to research. Okay? But codes are there for a reason. Right? All right. Let's go ahead and proceed forward, all right? Never look straight forward. Always look around you. Be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. This is one of them things. Think outside the box. Okay?
Trust is the foundation of modern conveyancing. And that's Tomlin's Law Dictionary, Volume 2, 1835 edition, under the definition of mort main. And it's also found in the Code of Law for the District of Columbia. And that's Chapter 854, an act to establish a code of law for the District of Columbia. And it says at 31 Stat 1432, it says the legal estate to be the sestque use. Okay, so that's found in the Code of Law for the District of Columbia, which is a nom de guerre, a fictitious war name, because they're making war on you. Okay, so under the international law of warfare, all parties to a cause must appear by nom de guerre, because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during a war in his own name. And a mixed war is one made by public authority and the other by private persons. Okay, that's Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, and the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. And they presume you're dead. And that's and that's 31 Stat 1230, where they presume you're dead, which means they want the demanded dead. So Janet Yellen and her thieving bankster buddies and her Roman call handlers can pillage all the fake money from the Treasury direct account under the Hague Convention concerning the international administration of estates and deceased persons. So they want me dead. Come on down! Make my day! Let's party! You motherfucking sons of bitches! Which means Janet Yellen and her Roman cult bar member scum intend to facilitate the demandant's murder in violation of their Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 18, Section 1113, attempt to commit murder or manslaughter. And so, and in the event the demandant turns up dead, then Janet Yellen is guilty of murder in violation of the Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 18, Section 1111. Murder is the unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. And Janet Yellen's deliberately calculated failure to dissolve and liquidate her fraudulent minor estate shows she intends to facilitate the demandant's murder and conspiracy to commit murder in violation of her Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 18, Section 1117. And Janet Yellen intends to bring the District of Columbia outside not exceeding 10 miles square in violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. With their minor estate scam under the Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, with Congress's plenary dictatorship jurisdiction. And this is National Mutual Insurance Company versus Tidewater Transfer Company. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington District of Columbia, and through their plenary power nationally covers those citizens, even one in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating the citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. Plenary. Plenary is dictatorship, folks. That's total. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. Plenary jurisdiction, the court's full and absolute power over the subject matter of the parties in the case. Plenary is full, complete, entire. Black's Law Dictionary, 9th edition. Plenary, full, complete in the courts of admiralty and ecclesiastical courts, okay? The admiralty and ecclesiastical is the same thing. And so that's Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 3rd revision, 8th edition. Plenary, a plenary power or plenary authority is a complete and absolute power to take a particular issue with no limitations. It's derived from the Latin term plenus, okay? So, and that's taken from Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is really not that good of a source, but They're quoting the same thing that's found in the Legal Information Institute, which is a good source. That's Cornell Law School. And I wanted to put it in there because it's derived from the Latin term plenus, okay? Plenary power, complete power over a particular area with no limitations. The term is also often used to describe commerce power of Congress under the Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Congress is granted full power over interstate commerce. The court has found that the states are not able to pass laws affecting interstate commerce without permission of Congress. In violation of Yellen's Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 18, Section 1584, sale into involuntary servitude. And in violation of Yellen's Code of Law for the District of Columbia, Title 18, Section 1583, enticement to slavery. Because everyone held in prison is a slave of the state. And Yellen is using capitis diminutio maxima under Roman law, which capitis diminutio maxima is when they turn your name into all block capital letters, and it's the highest capitis diminutio, diminishing a status through the use of capitalization in Roman law, a diminishing or abridgment of personality, a loss or curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications, the highest and most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage, when he became a slave. Come on, you motherfuckers, make my day. Yeah, don't get me going. You're going to get me going here. Which is proof Janet Yellen intends to enslave the demandant, and Yellen's bought and paid for clerks selling their just us in the inferior courts of limited jurisdiction / executive agencies are using their Roman cult sestike usufruct / minor estate to sell the demandant into involuntary servitude. Janet Yellen's required to know she gets paid in fake money, Federal Reserve notes, which are forced loans in military script, and the forced loans of 1862 and 1863 in the form of legal tender notes were vital forces in the struggle for national supremacy. And it's also a quote under Article 37 of the Lieber Code that has never been repealed, is still in force, and has just been added to. And they're required to know that the occupying power are U.S. citizens, which are for, with their U.S. citizen military troops to enforce the martial law. And this is Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. U.S. citizens required to be licensed as a peace officer in Texas. And they're required to know that Texas, Arizona, and United States statutes are edicts under martial law. And this is taken from the non-ratification of the 14th Amendment by Judge A.H. Ellen to the Utah Supreme Court. Note, under the law of martial, only criminal jurisdiction of a military court is the recognized law, but as Article 3 says, the civil courts can continue wholly or in part as long as the civil jurisdiction does not violate the military orders laid down by the commander-in-chief or one of his commanders. By this means, a military venue jurisdiction and authority are imposed with the occupied populace under the disguise of the ordinary civil courts and officers of the occupied district or region, because the so-called civil authorities in an occupied district or region only act at the pleasure of a military authority. It should also be noted here that the several state legislatures, county boards of commissioners, and city councils are constantly legislating to please the edicts of the federal government, the occupying force, and that their legislation in this sense is not an exercise of state sovereignty, but instead a compliance with the edicts of the military force which occupies the several states and are consequently edicts of martial law rule. And then it's got Article 13, General Orders 100. Military jurisdictions, two kinds. First, that which is conferred by statute, and second, that which is derived from the common law of war. In other words, you have the right to defend yourself. Janet Yellen intends that her screen for low intelligence and a propensity for aggressive behavior in her District of Columbia corporate Lake Worth military police buddies and Azle military police buddies and Homeland Security military police buddies and Euless military police buddies. Anyways, I list all these military police thugs. Unlawfully arrested the demandant on color of Yellen's minor estate to facilitate the demandant's murder, because the demandant does have a right to resist any unlawful arrest with lethal force if necessary. So come on down, you fucking cowards. I'll be armed. We'll settle it for once and for all, you fucking cowards. Don't get me going. as evidenced by the Armistice, where the people killed all of their captors except for one because they did not know how to sail. And they demanded that that one sailor take them back to Africa, where the Supreme Court of the United States dismissed the murder charges and ordered them to be returned to Africa. And that's U.S. versus Schooner Amistad, U.S. Supreme Court, 1841. Because when the demandant exercises his right to resist their unlawful arrest with lethal force if necessary, then they'll have an excuse to murder the demandant, as evidenced in the YouTube video of Farmington, Utah military police murdering Chase Allen for having a homemade plate on an automobile, which is a win-win-win scenario for Janet Yellen and her bankster buddies and the Roman cult handlers, because when the demandant turns up dead, they get to pillage all the fake money in the Treasury direct account for the minor estate under the Hague Convention concerning the International Administration of Estates of Deceased Persons, concluded on the 2nd of October, 1973. You fucking pigs! Janet Yellen is wringing her hands thinking about the fake money she and her bankster buddies and her Roman cult handlers get to pillage from Chase Allen's minor estate Treasury direct account after her Farmington, Utah military police murdered him on 3rd March 2023 for exercising his right to resist their unlawful arrest for having a homemade plate on his automobile, when Yellen knows that a traffic offense fails to be a breach of peace and there is no lawful warrant, and Godby, Scholler, and Ramirez are wringing their hands over all the business this is going to bring them in their so-called court, and how Yellen and her bought and paid for clerks masquerading as judges / military commissioners love to shed innocent blood for their Roman cult god Baal.
All right. So that being said, there was some words in there. So I'm going to use a definition, so there'd be no vague understanding of the particular words he used, like the F word. Okay. He's using the definition to strike or to move back and forth. Okay. He's striking them with words.
Godby, Scholler, and Ramirez
Do not take it as a cuss word.
are judges in the federal court in the Northern District of Texas. Janet Yellen's engaging in war crimes by coercing information from the demandant and from third parties with their forced impecuniosity interrogatory, and their forced fingerprinting and their forced identification, are taking the demandant hostage for the Roman cult minor estate in violation of Article 4 of the Geneva Convention relative to protection of civilians in a time of war of 1949, pillage the demandant's arm and private automobile, and are assaulting the demandant for the crime of their Roman cult minor estate in violation of Article 33, and are using her local rules as a mechanism to deny the demandant a remedy, another war crime under Article 52 of the Geneva Convention, and are coercing the demandant to work for the occupying power, another war crime by compelling the disclosure of a Social Security number, by using a Social Security number because a Social Security number is for federal personnel under Title 5 United States Code Section 552A.
So, look that up, people.
And they tortured the demandant and engaged in forced medical experiments with their forced vaccinations and their forced mask wearing and their forced tuberculosis shots and their forced feeding poisons in their jails with dead pig, fluoridated water, countless chemicals, more war crimes in violation of Article 32.
All right. So we'll stop right there. Remember, y'all, whether I believe it or not, it don't really matter. It's educational. Look up these things that he's talking about. Okay? Hearsay. All right? But everything we've been operating in today since we was a little kid anyway is hearsay. How many people was adopted and never knew about it until later in their life? Right? Even the day you was born is hearsay. Just saying. This is one of them videos. Think outside the box, y'all. Okie dokie. Do your own research. Educational purposes only. Not illegal advice. Till next time. Bye, y'all.